Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to it's not an orb, it's dust.
It's dust.
I,
It's not a ghost. It's dust, I promise.
It's just dust. Exactly. I am
We
Cathryn.
just lost like 30% of our viewers right there. They're like,
I know, right? Like they're all
my
like,
picture, it's a ghost. It's a real ghost, I tell you. Dust. Okay.
we'll hear about it later in our emails when they send us 800,000 emails, all getting really angry with us. But that's okay. It is what it is, right?
We're used to it. It's all good.
All good.
So just to introduce us, my name is Cathryn. I am used to be a paranormal investigator. I now do psychic readings and stuff like that. I am with Trevor and Lynda. Do you guys want to just quickly give everybody a quick update, introduce yourselves? Even though I know that people know who we are, sometimes it's not a bad idea to.
Well, hopefully we're always getting newer viewers, right? So my name is Trevor Palmer, and I am the director of Western Idaho Paranormal. We're one of the largest paranormal investigation teams in Idaho. And I don't do psychic readings, so I leave that to Kathy. That's me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So I'm Lynda Carino. I'm the director of the Georgina Paranormal Society. I'm an investigator. I'm all of the above. Not psychic, but it's on my bucket list. I would love to be psychic.
You guys
we're working on it, right, Lynda?
Right? We're working on that. Yeah,
we're working on it. Yeah.
We're
intuitive. You underestimate yourselves so much. So whatever.
Right. We're intuitive. Right, Trevor?
Exactly. So and Lynda, we missed you last week. You got to go on a little trip.
I did.
Talk a little bit about that. Tell us anything exciting happened to you down there?
Yeah, lots of exciting things. Well, first of all, near and dear to Kathy's heart, we went to a vampire cemetery in Wilno, Ontario, which is sort of I'm gonna say northwest of Ottawa, and it's really cool. It's St. Stanislaus Cemetery, and it's in a Polish settlement in this really cool little town called Wilno. And honestly, I was hoping to see there was a grave with a cage over it, but it has since been removed. But the iron that held the cage in place, the little iron, whatever they are, they're still there. So that's kind
of the pikes or the spikes or whatever.
Yeah, like the screws, I guess, that are in the ground. They're still there, which is kind of cool. We experienced a lot of sort of weird vibes, but nothing like we didn't see anything. We didn't see any apparitions, but it's a really strange place. I mean, I don't know, energetically, it's really odd. But the same day, that evening, we went to Buck Hill Road, which again is very near to Wilno, Ontario. And there is this great road. At the top of the road, you're supposed to stop your car, blink your headlights, and you're supposed to see what is supposed to be a light from a lantern. And there's a folklore thing associated with it. You can look it up. If you look up Buck Hill Road, Ontario on Google, you'll find out all of it. We didn't experience that, but we're pretty sure that there was a cryptid experience that happened to all of us in the woods in the middle of the night with a grunting, weird ape-like noise and some strange rocks and knocking on trees. And well, anyway, it was really cool.
It wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me doing the grunting and the ape-like noise.
Well,
I do that every once in a while, but I haven't updated my passport, so it wasn't.
Okay, cool. I was going to ask if it was you, but I kind of figured maybe.
He did not follow you this time.
But next time, you never know. But yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we've got a guest coming on today. Trevor, do you want to introduce her? And we'll talk a little bit about the show, because we're going to be talking about things in your home that could possibly bring about negative energy, or could be things that are bringing a more gloomy feel to the home, let's just say.
Yeah, bad luck and bad energy and things that you just may not even be aware of, you know.
Exactly.
This topic kind of came about when I was actually having this kind of discussion with our guest. Our guest, her name is Jennifer Ward. She is the marketing director for Western Idaho Paranormal, and she's also an amazing investigator. She comes to us with lots of experience. She actually lived over back east for a while and was on a paranormal team over there. Currently, she runs a YouTube channel called Killer Cafe, and she talks about paranormal and true crime on that channel. So that's pretty fun. And we'd just like to welcome Jennifer to the studio.
Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
You're muted. You're muted.
See, I do YouTube. You would think I would know how to work my own microphone.
It's okay. You're fitting right in. Yeah.
Well, good.
Every week is a challenge. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the joy of live streaming, you know. So.
That's why I don't do live streaming. I do the recorded stuff.
Well, not tonight. You're not. So
No, not
Yeah,
tonight. No. Nope.
welcome to live TV.
Yeah.
we love live. It's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
So Jennifer, what got you into the paranormal? What do you like about the paranormal? How did you start doing this? And yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Really, I got to tell the story too last night at the wonderful little jubilation that we got to do.
We didn't.
The Girl Scouts. It was so fun. There were about 50-ish girls, and they were so excited to learn paranormal, and it was really fun. But I kind of grew up loving it. Indiana is where I grew up, and originally my mom was a huge thing into the paranormal. Went to a few places around Indiana, went to the military, went out to East and Virginia, and I joined a group there, and we got to actually investigate in Colonial Williamsburg. And there was just a lot of experiences and a lot of like beautiful moments where I was just like falling more in love with it. Came out here in 22 after I married my wonderful husband. And then I found you guys shortly after, earlier this year. I found you guys at CrampusCon, ironically. So yeah, I've always loved it.
Glad that you did it. So.
Yeah, and it's been so much fun. Obviously, we've done some really fun investigations. Gooding has been by far some of the most amazing thing. I know Peter could probably talk for hours about Gooding. But yeah, so I just kind of fell in love with that, and I'm so glad that I got to find you guys and come out here and do all this fun stuff out here.
Awesome. Cool.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you on the show.
Like Jennifer was saying, we took a trip out, about a 2-hour drive from our hometown here, and we were invited out there by the Girl Scouts of America, which was awesome. We've never been invited by those gals before. Anyway, Jennifer and I were talking about some stuff on the way up, paranormal stuff, and kind of conversation kind of came up about it. About negative energy and bad luck things and things that cause us bad luck. And we were talking about, Kathy, there was a day that we did an experiment where you're kind of doing a remote view of my house. We were trying to see if the experiment was, it was kind of an opportunity for Kathy to kind of test her abilities. She knew she was confident she can do it. She hadn't done it for a long time. It was really cool because Kathy had never seen my house before. And she was kind of trying to guide me throughout the house, telling me what she was feeling and stuff like that. Well,
it was so much fun.
It was cool. And from my standpoint, I was trying to kind of like, I have to kind of quantify things. I have a very logical way of thinking. And so my idea was like, if Kathy's able to somehow have some form of presence in my house, she has some form of view that, she's there, there must be some type of energy or something that we should be able to detect. So I had like EMF meters out, and I had REM pods out and trip wires and all this stuff, trying to see if something would happen. Nothing happened. That didn't mean Kathy wasn't here, because she was actually pretty darn accurate when it came to describing my house. It was pretty amazing. Anyway, there was one point though where she kind of hyper focused on this one area of my living room, and there's kind of there's a window that goes out to my side yard, and she kept asking me, she goes, well, what's over there? What's over there? Because she can't see anything. And I'm telling her, I was like, there's nothing over there. It's just it's a corner of a wall, and there's carpet, and there's like a vent, and there's a window, and that's it. There's nothing there. She goes, no, 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 no. There's something there. I'm telling you. And I'm like, Kathy, I'm looking right at you. Nothing there. I'm telling you. And then, and Kathy, you'll have to kind of describe what it was that you were feeling. But
yeah, so it felt like something was drawing me to that window. It's hard to explain really, but I mean, I guess the best way to describe it, but not as literal as this, it almost felt like something was there telling me to come over, like to come and take a look and just be within that area. And I wouldn't say it was completely heavy or anything like that, but it felt like alive, I guess is the best way to say it. Like as if, like, let's say, if you're doing, let's say, paranormal investigation and you're a medium or a psychic or something like that, you can feel the energy of different places within that area. And that's what it felt to me. Like it wasn't like it was alive, but it was alive. Like it was calling to me to come over. And it was really like overwhelming to some degree because I couldn't shake it. I was like, okay, just Trevor says there's nothing there. It's just a wall. Get over it and move on. But I couldn't because I kept wanting to go back to it. And I was like, something is here. Something is here. I don't know what it is. Like, do you have something buried under the house? Like, I don't know. Like, what the fuck is going on? It was driving me nuts, though.
Yeah, well, it was driving me nuts too because I kept telling her, I was like, it's the only thing that goes in that part of my house is a Christmas tree during the holidays. That's where we put our Christmas tree, and that's it. And she's like, well, no, that's not it, And then she asked me, she goes, well, what's outside the window? I said, well, it's just my side yard. And she goes, well, what's out there? I said, well, I got my shed out there and a bunch of weeds, and I said, well, I said I have a couple of elk antlers and an elk skull out there. From when I hunt. And she was like, ding,
yeah.
She goes,
it was so strong. As soon as you said that, I was like, that's like it's something to do with this. Like it's so strong.
And then I proceeded to get chastised for having these things at my house because apparently they're not good, and in my mind, I'm just like, I didn't have anything else to do with them. They're too big to throw in the garbage. And so I just kind of put them outside my house. I was going to use them as like a garden decoration at some point. And anyway, this is how the conversation kind of went. And Jennifer started to explain to me that some of these objects, things that we wouldn't even think about, like most people don't give a second thought about, that they can kind of hold energy and bring negativity into your home or into your life, and you may not even realize it. And Jennifer's like, well, I think the words that you use, Jennifer, was like, they contain a lot of stuff. And
yeah,
I'm like,
just a lot of something. Yeah, matter, energy, something. And it's always just in there. And you can't, and I always say, like, whenever you do something, you should always give thanks to like whatever it is. Like a lot of witches, they use graveyard dirt. You have to give thanks, thank the land, thank everything, thank the grave that you're taking it from. Because if you don't, a lot of bad consequences can come with it. So it just contains a lot.
And it got me to think, it's like, well, shoot, if that thing's causing me bad luck or giving me bad juju, I was like, what else do I got in my house that's causing me problems?
But the thing is, I don't feel like they were causing you like bad luck or bad juju. I think it was just that, maybe you needed to say thanks to the elk, or something along that line. Like it was just it was just sort of that energy. Or even if you had used it as a garden decoration, it's being used rather than discarded and just left on this, if that makes sense. Like, you're giving it respect in some manner, right? And so, but I didn't feel any negative. It just felt like it was alive. Like that's how I felt.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And that's what I told Jennifer too. It's like, we kind of talked about, she talks about giving thanks to nature and things like that. And we all have different belief systems and stuff. And even though we may call it different things, and that's what I told her. I said, honestly, when I hunt, I'm a true sportsman. I follow rules and regulations to a T. I'm very careful when I'm going to pull the trigger. It's something that I don't do anything unless I know that this is going to go smoothly. There won't be any suffering. It's going to be over. And I've taken a lot of pride in that. But I always say a prayer of gratitude if I take an animal. So because I'm a big believer in that, and that's really important. But Jennifer then also proceeded to tell me a story about rocks, and that one threw me for a loop. So Jennifer, you got to tell the rock story, because this is where I started getting concerned about things. What am I going to pick up?
Well, I was just saying that a lot of times people will go to like the ocean and they'll pick up like shells or rocks or something. And I told him a story of a friend of mine who she went and she found hagstones. And for some people, they mean a lot. For others, they mean nothing. But she picked up hagstones, didn't think the sea.
So what would they look like? Like, describe to people what they would look like.
So hagstones are little stones with holes throughout them.
Oh,
Like
okay.
hagstones are used in some stuff. I don't really know what they're fully used for. I just know that a lot of people have purposes with them. But for some odd reason, she went and grabbed these hagstones, took them home, didn't say thank you to this ocean or anything of that nature. And for the next few weeks, she had a lot of bad juju going on in her house. Like one of her animals died, her car crashed, like just a lot of bad stuff happened. And she calls me crying and she's like, I don't know what to do. So I'm like going through trying to figure out what it is. And I'm like, well, did you say thank you when you took the hagstones away from the ocean and stuff? She's like, no. I was like, we need to go take these back. Like we need to take them back, or at least go and say thank you or something of that nature. So we went back, she threw them back in, and instantly her luck changed. I think within like 3 days everything was back to normal, everything was okay. And I normally don't hold much weight into that stuff, but watching all of the bad events happen in her life and then everything change, it was like night and day difference. It was crazy.
Wow. That is, hey. It's interesting though, because speaking of stones, I guess, hematite is, a crystal, a very popular crystal. And a lot of people don't realize that it can also hold a lot of energy. And because it holds a lot of energy, it can actually really be very strong within a home. So let's say you've got a lot of negative people coming into your house or whatever it is, or maybe, you've had some fights within that, in the home with this hematite around. This can actually hold on to some negative energy, and people don't even realize that. So I'm actually just going to, so Trevor sent me a picture of hagstones. I think that was you, Trevor, right? Yeah.
So yeah. Well, and that's it, because we talk, I go around, to different conventions, and we get different people that they like to, they make different things, pendants. And one of my favorite things are like and I think, Kathy, you make them too. They're like resin pyramids that have different minerals and things in them, because they're supposed to contain.
So this is ones that I made.
So I would get one because they look really, really cool, but
yeah,
they also have some energy associated with them as well, as I understand. So it would make sense that these things are able to collect energy somehow.
Yeah, and they also, the other thing is too, is with the crystals, like the resin, what they really do too is they project the energy that the crystal that is inside of that out. So let's say it's a rose quartz, and you're looking for relationship or to make relationships better, for love or whatever, that particular stone helps to produce, right? And it can actually help magnetize it out into your home. So sometimes a lot of people will actually create within a room, they'll take 4 of them, so one in each corner, and they will have like kind of like their own little crystal box to keep them safe, or to keep whatever they're looking for within their life. It's kind of interesting. I'm not probably explaining that very well, because at the same time I'm
She's
I
trying
want
to
to show
forget
you
the
guys
picture.
this. So so apparently I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. These are hagstones right here.
Yes.
Mhm.
Those
Yes.
are really cool. They look like bones, kind of, eh?
They do. They do. But you know what? If you've seen the movie Coraline,
Mm.
she actually has a hagstone in her little goodie bag when she goes to find the eyes of the murdered children. And when you look through the hole in the hagstone, the premise is that you see spirit. So they're very magical and they're very
Oh.
mystical. Yeah.
That's why you have to give
Interesting.
thanks when you take them.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, one of the things I was when we were talking about this earlier, I thought I have to bring this up because one of the rumors or beliefs is that there is something that brings negative energy into a home, and it is so false and it is so wrong. But I thought I would bring it up because it's something that I use on a regular basis. Uh,
Tarot cards.
tarot cards, right? And so a lot of people get very confused and they think that tarot cards, just having them in, there's actually a movie out right now called Tarot, and apparently if you touch somebody else's cards, like blah, you're gonna get haunted for the rest of your life, and bullshit. I'm just gonna bullshit. Throw
We're
that
gonna
out
go
there.
grab somebody's cards and try to, that's just a new investigation for me. And this is like, you touch the cards, right?
Right? Yeah. But tarot cards will not bring negative energy. But it's like anything, right? We were one of the things that we had talked about was Ouija boards when we were having a private, like our own talk. And it's really the intention. So if you're using the tarot cards, in a more negative fashion, I suppose, they're gonna hold a sense of energy, right? But for me as a reader, when I'm reading for people, if they come to my home, now most of my work is done online, but if they come to my home, I don't care if you touch my cards. It's not going to affect anything. In fact, if anything, I might, who knows, maybe it will be a little bit stronger. You never know, right? But it is what it is. But I had to bring that out.
Oh, I'm glad
Yeah.
you did. I'm glad
I
you
know
did.
nothing about tarot cards. I was telling you, because the discussion, Jennifer actually talked about tarot cards and that they hold energy and things like that during our discussion last night. And I'm like, if I grabbed a deck of tarot cards, I'd be like, go fish. I have no idea what any of them mean. I don't know anything about them.
Right. But they're not going to hold anything that is without the intent of the person behind it. And again, it's going to be like anything else, any crystal, any Ouija board, any whatever it is. Tarot cards are just literally pieces of paper that are created,
Right.
and they're punched out like you would a book, through a publishing company. That's the end of it. But as with anything, because it is created with, trees and, live substances, I guess at some point, they are going to hold a sense of energy. So again, if you have more negative negative energy, or this is what you're going to put towards the cards, then that's exactly what you're going to receive. Also, one other thing I should mention is if you are, I guess, like because there's an entity attached, not to the tarot cards, but there has been an entity that I've noticed in certain different situations, where if you are like a false prophet or somebody who is taking advantage of people, psychically especially, or along that type of thing, there has been a particular entity that has shown up in people's homes that I've seen, and that would be the cowboy. And I'm sure you guys have all experienced the cowboy in some extent. It's not always the hat man; it's like the cowboy. Like this guy actually wears spurs. He's got a cowboy hat, or he's got the not the spurs, but the what do they call those things on the legs?
Chaps.
Chaps.
Yeah. And he's shown up quite a few times, like throughout the years that I was investigating, but also too is like even doing readings for people, and people will mention them or mention him, and it'll be like, not particularly with them, but it might be with their grandma or their aunt or their friend, or you know what I mean? But it's like somebody who may have been charging, a few $1,000s for pulling a card for you, or, maybe selling you that rock that they found on the beach for $10,000, or somebody who's, basically false type of profit, that sort of, it's really interesting actually. But that's a whole nother story.
I'm taking notes on how to make more money. So selling rocks off beach for 10 grand.
Yeah. Gotta make them all pretty and shiny. Draw little faces on them. They make even more money.
Perfect. I can totally do that. So.
So I had jotted down a couple of things when you were talking about the premise of the show, because there were a couple of things that in my life with this friend of mine who unfortunately has passed away, so may she rest in peace. There were two things that happened in her life that I think I could talk about, because this show will deal with this. Now, as a vegan, I sort of accidentally find things that are vegan. Okay, so the paranormal, sometimes you accidentally bring home things that might be, well, that might have energy to them. In this case, this amazing friend of mine, Christina, she told me about the fact that now she loved to frequent her library. And one day she went to the library, and it wasn't an unusual thing, but she brought a book home. It was just a book about, the natural world kind of thing. And she said to me a few days after she brought this book home, she said, I've had horrible dreams since I went to the library. I've had horrible dreams. And things are weird. I walk into the living room and things are really strange. And it's ever since I brought that damn book home from the library, I think there's something attached to the damn book. And I said, okay, I trust your instincts because you're a very sensitive person. So she said, yeah, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to take that book back to the damn library. I can't deal. So she did. And she called me and said, it's gone. Whatever it was attached to the book. So you can accidentally bring stuff home. She had another issue where, now this is a weird thing. She went to the ATM and got out some money. Now you think about money, right? We don't even think about it. We go to the ATM, we withdraw, $40, $60, $80, whatever, and we bring it home. She never used to use money. She always used her card all the time. She never had cash on hand. And in this case, she needed cash on hand for whatever reason. And she said to me, again, she called me and said, okay, I've taken $100 out of the bank. I have this money. It's on my bedside table. I can't even sit in bed. There is an emanation coming from this money. And I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody who had one of the bills might have been depressed, might have been going through a tough time, might have had something going on in their lives. She said, but I can't deal. I'm taking the money and I'm putting it back in the bank.
Oh, no.
Interestingly enough, when she did, that feeling completely dissipated. So you can accidentally bring things along for the ride that can have attachments and all of that stuff that you wouldn't even think, right? You just wouldn't think about it. So, I mean, I thought those were pretty cool examples. And the fact that she was able to be sensitive enough to pick up on it was quite astonishing.
You said she passed away, or?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, she did.
Yeah. Yeah. But she was pretty amazing. And she was very, completely, I don't know, very sensitive to energy, to you name it. I mean, it was just completely incredible. But honestly, yeah, I said to her at the time, did you clear your house? I mean, did any of that stay? Because sometimes the energy can remain,
linger around. Yeah.
right? And she said, oh yeah, I did what I normally do. She was Catholic. She prayed. And she said, oh no, it dissipated. I opened up the window and I asked, my guardian angel to just take it away. And my guardian angel did. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So no, it didn't linger, but that's just because she was smart enough and I guess awake enough to realize that it definitely could. But I mean, we bring things home all the time, but money and library books, that was kind of cool.
Well, I'd read something earlier today when I was trying to do some research on this subject, and it was talking about like even accepting gifts from people who have negative energy just in their lives, or just negative energy. Accepting those gifts can actually transfer that negative energy into that object, and you can bring it into your home. But for me, from like, when I'm looking at this from like an investigative standpoint, it's like, okay, I kind of want to know more about the science behind it. How does this work? Because, and to me, I feel like if I picked up a rock off the beach and I said, this is a cool rock, and I put it in my pocket, I don't say thank you, because maybe I don't think that way. I put it in my rock, I take it home, put it on the mantle above the fireplace. It's super cool. To me, it's just a rock. So, and maybe some bad things are happening, and maybe it's around that. I'm probably going to call it coincidence, right? So, I mean, I feel like you give something meaning because you just, you base it off of timing, and it's like, oh, this thing's causing me bad luck. To me, I feel like you could have something in your house that maybe one person would consider negative, but to me, it's not. I mean, how does that work? Because I feel like, there's so many different things that could happen. Like somebody gives me a gift, and maybe they're kind of down on their luck and stuff like that. But I feel like I have to buy into it to give it meaning. Does that make sense? Like I'd have to kind of believe that this is.
If we think about it in this form, in the form that as investigators we've all run into that person who, no matter what you tell them, their house is going to be haunted. Like you could like show them evidence upon evidence upon evidence upon evidence, and they're still going to be like, no, it's haunted, blah. And you're just like, okay, whatever, then live in your haunted house, which is an open window. Whatever. We don't give a shit, right? But then there's and then we've all run across the people. It's like, and especially I guess in my community, like with the mediums and the psychics and stuff, where everything has a meaning, and it's not always that case. Like, not every number that I see is an angel number. You know what I mean? Or not every, because I would be like Googling all freaking day long. Like, oh my God, it's 5:34 p.m. here. I gotta go look. Like, you know what I mean? But there are people that are like that. Like the moon comes up at night. Oh my God, it means something. Oh my God, the blade of grass moved this way. It must mean something. This means, and you're like, oh fuck, like let it go. So, I'm sure that this also comes into where, with the objects and the negative energy. And are you in a place where, you're just feeling negative within yourself? And so you're placing it upon an object so that you'll feel better. If I get rid of this, I'm removing whatever it is. I'm removing my bad luck. Okay. So, I'm going to get rid of, my coffee pot because apparently I burned myself that morning. So it's got to be the fault of the coffee pot, which would never happen because I love my coffee and I don't care if it burns me. but you know what I'm getting at, right? So I think that, to some people that a lot of that does happen. And rather than, taking responsibility for maybe that, maybe you're just putting out. Oh, and I love what Mario's just saying, Mercury in retrograde. Absolutely. Like a lot of people place negative energy onto, or, negative connotation onto Mercury in retrograde. And now, granted, there are some wacky doodle things that can definitely happen. And, we can have different moon phases where that can even affect electronics and stuff like that. Like we'll just have, electronics will just go kablooey all the time. But we also have to take a step back and go, okay, what exactly, could I have done maybe to make this a little bit better, or maybe I got to stop placing so much responsibility onto this, that, and the other thing, and maybe start taking some responsibility for my own feelings and the energy that I'm putting out.
True. Jennifer, how do you feel about all this?
I mean, yes and no. I like, obviously I practice something different than a lot of people. So I always am very of the mind of like certain things hold a lot of energy than other things do. You just need to be careful and conscious of what you do. You give what you put in, and you get what you put in. Um, with my friend, it was a very weird coincidence with the stones. That's the only reason why I put weight in it, was just because her life was going fine. She took the stones home. A bunch of stuff hit the fan out of nowhere. And so
But
then
there are
that's
things like that, like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there are things like the hag stones. There are things like that we know can bring about some wacky kind of stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But other than that, like, we have a client who, she's such a sweetheart, but she has a lot of things in there that can influence certain feelings and certain things that could cause more harm than good to her children. And we've told her multiple times, like, hey, we think it might be X, Y, and Z. Like, yes, we're getting some hits, but it's very minimal. We're not getting what you see. So we can help you with everything possible. But at the end of the day, removing what we think might be beneficial could help you and your children become less influenced by what's in the home to cause these nightmares or what you think you're seeing, because for all we know, they think they could be awake when in reality they're having a dream of them being in their bedroom and seeing something, or being influenced by seeing a picture, or watching Mardi Gras on TV or something of that nature. So I always try to, especially like as an investigator, I always try to ask, like, that's always my first question, like, oh, it must be this rock, because I've been having a terrible week. And I'm like, okay, like, that really sucks and everything. Well, why do you think it's this particular rock? Like, and so on and so forth. And I think that's one of my main things always going into investigations. Why are you seeing this? Is it because you are experiencing it, or is there other factors adding into what might be going on? Like, did you watch a scary episode of a SpongeBob last night? Is that why you're seeing a Krabby Patty coming at you to eat you? Or is there an actual Krabby Patty in your room coming to eat you?
That's smart. Absolutely smart. It's external influences, right?
Oh, go ahead, Kath. Go ahead, Lynda. Yeah.
It's true. It's external influences as well. And you're right. I mean, Jennifer, you're totally right, especially when it comes to kids, I find. And you're doing investigations with children. It's not necessarily that there's a boogeyman in the closet, but they might have seen an episode of SpongeBob, or maybe they watched, something else on TV that maybe they weren't supposed to watch. And it's playing in their mind over and over and over again. And that could certainly influence exactly what's happening in their lives. Totally, 100%.
Yeah, I was kind of going, a couple thoughts came to mind, and Mario brought up something about Mercury in retrograde, and made me think I saw part of a podcast not too long ago about with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Mercury, and they were asking about Mercury in retrograde, and he kind of made a comment about it. A lot of people think that they get bad luck from Mercury in retrograde. It's like, leave Mercury alone. Mercury's just fine. It was made me think of that. When it comes to like objects bringing stuff into our house, I'm kind of a skeptic. I do recognize energy, and I've definitely experienced energy, and I've seen it at work and during the investigation, stuff like that. I have no question about it. I think a lot of it's got to do with how these objects are making you feel, though, right? It could be anything. So if you bring in something into your house and you're immediately uncomfortable with it, it's going to be a source of negative energy for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot that go into it, and we talk about things you may not be aware of. like the way your house is, like, do you have a lot of clutter in your house? You know, is there just stuff stacked? Are there places in your house you can't even get to because you've got so much stuff and it's all cluttered? That's going to be a source of negative energy for people. I mean, does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel depressed? Does it make you feel angry? You know, those are the things you got to ask yourself. So, you know, I look around my house sometimes and I'll be sitting watching TV and I'll notice all the dust that's on my TV stand, and it'll drive me nuts. But I'll let it sit for a while, and it'll continue to drive me nuts until I finally get up and wipe it down, and then I feel a lot better. You know, so I mean, dust is a source of negative energy for people. They talk about one I didn't really understand very well was like broken tableware. Can somebody explain why broken tableware can cause
like broken cups, you mean, or
yeah, like broken dishes that you just hold on to for whatever reason? Maybe it's like grandma's china or something like that. But it apparently in the stuff that I was reading, that was a thing, was broken tableware. So I wasn't really sure if anybody had any insight as to why that would be a thing. But
what was the thing behind it? Like,
I think it had to do with maybe the sadness that it broke. I don't know, holding on to things that maybe you need to let go of, that type of thing. I was just kind of curious. I mean, I definitely agree with the clutter. I agree with the dust. They talk about having stacks of unpaid bills laying around. That's a big source of negative energy. Cobwebs was a big one. Cobwebs shows up a lot. So with negative energy. So we had a client, this was before Jennifer joined the team, and their claim was they had this negative entity that they couldn't get rid of. And they said, they had tried everything. They'd had people come in and cleanse the house. They'd done everything they could, and they were trying to just get some validation because they were thinking like a lot of these people weren't believing that things were happening. But, and we went and investigated. Well, the first thing that I noticed was some of the items that they had in their home, and a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, had to do with the macabre. I mean, they had jars of baby pigs that were just in the house, they had a lot of books on witchcraft and magic and black magic and just all sorts of, just things. A lot of, when we talk about like animal heads, they had a lot of animal heads on the wall that were just covered in cobwebs. They had a ton of, what was interesting, they had a lot of broken dishes too that were stuffed in this one corner. And their basement was just cobwebs everywhere, so, and I started kind of doing the freeze. This is where I started thinking about like things in our house that cause negative. I was like, well, yeah, you're never going to get rid of this thing because it loves it here, right? So, would you agree that perhaps sometimes the way that we are living, just our lifestyles, are attracting negative energy or negative spirit or spirits with negative energy into our homes? Is that a thing?
100%. 100%. As a matter of fact, we had a case too where we were contacted by another paranormal society. This is interesting. Who told us that they had investigated this lady's house and they couldn't find anything there. They used whatever equipment they used, and they ascertained that there was nothing there. And that, it would be nice if we would also go over, talk to this lady, and basically tell her that there was nothing there. Now, I'm sorry, but no, I want to see for myself. So we, of course, took the team over. And the minute we walked through the door, it was insane. I mean, this situation was a hoarding type of situation. There was stuff absolutely everywhere. I don't think that she was letting any light into the home. The children were very depressed. There was all kinds of stuff. Negative stuff because of the situation and because of how she had been living for so long. So Trevor, absolutely. I totally understand that. I think it can bring you down. I think because there's no flow of energy, you're talking feng shui, right? You're talking the chi energy and the Shaw energy. There's none of that. This lady was living in absolute, it was nuts. It was absolutely crazy. So There was no energy moving around in the house. Of course, it's got nowhere to go. And whatever negativity, whatever negative energies are brought in, they love it because they can hide in all those little nooks and crannies and in those horrible corners where the cobwebs like to hang out. But yeah, so I mean, no, we could not, in all due respect, we couldn't go in there and say, yeah, no, you're just crazy. There's nothing happening. Because honestly, it didn't, if even if our equipment wasn't picking up anything, you could feel that really heavy, horrible energy in that place, just because of the way that this poor person was living. And we had to basically say in a very nice way, you know, you might want to open up the curtains, maybe introduce some light into the space, move things around a little bit. I mean, make it less cluttered, and then you might actually feel a bit lighter. So I totally agree, Trevor. Like, yeah, totally. It can stay there.
But that energy too is the same as like, a lot of people forget to a lot of people forget that a house is just four walls. No matter how big the house is, ultimately it's four walls. And so let's say you have, the parents are fighting constantly, and it's funny because the first, you always hear these old stories of, the parents fighting in the bedroom. Well, hello. Where should you maybe not be fighting, right? It is in the room where you are essentially spending a good portion of your time. And this should be a room which is with love and intimacy and, all of that. And you're just creating this negative force field within this room. And hell yeah, objects that are in the room, especially porous objects, wood, ceramic, whatever it is, they're going to hold on to that energy. Limestone, maybe somebody has a limestone statue. Those are things that are going to hold on to the energy. And then, whether you take them with you or you sell them at a garage sale or whatever the heck you're doing with them, you are essentially passing that energy through. But it's funny because, a lot of them think like, it when you hear about people that have been fighting in their bedroom, it's funny because almost none of them have surpassed that energy. Like they've just basically divorced. It's done because all it's doing is recirculating. It's just recirculating. It's just creating more and more negative energy. And unless you actually cleanse it out and I don't know, have whoopee 24 hours a day, maybe, I don't know, like whatever is gonna, create it, change the energy, right? But seriously, like it does create something that most people don't recognize. And we all walk into homes where we know that somebody's been fighting, even if they've got the biggest smile on their face and they're all like blah blah, oh, this is wonderful and da da da, he's just the best husband in the world. And you can just feel that heat coming off of them. Like, yeah, the tension is just there no matter what.
Yeah, I talk about that a lot with people. They talk about that extra sensory, that third eye type thing. You can walk, and it's so true. Energy will linger, and I feel like especially negative energy can really, really linger. And you can, and that's happened to me a lot where I'll step into an elevator, and you can, with the two people that were just, and they're not saying anything, but you're just like, this is tense. It's kind of,
yeah.
What do you think? So what about like mirrors, in particular, like broken mirrors, stained mirrors? What are your thoughts on those?
Go ahead, Jennifer. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I didn't really understand. I have broken dishware, so maybe I should probably get rid of that. But
it was just on the list that I read.
No, I found it so interesting and odd that broken dishware could possibly. I mean, I get that maybe it was broken in a fit of anger or something of that nature. Maybe it would hold on to something, but that was just a curious one to think about. But broken mirrors, I mean, everybody believes in, obviously, to each their own different ways of things. Personally, as long as Like, I've seen artists break them and then, like, make them into really cool, intricate mirrors, or, recently, I've seen, like, this girl create a moss mirror where she broke the mirror up and put moss in between all the cracks and stuff, and it was really interesting, but I don't think I'll ever try to bring one in my home. Um, I don't know.
Well, is
You
that
never
what
know.
added
I guess if it's broken
breaking
out of
mirrors
malice, no, but if it's broken
7
out of
years bad
something,
luck?
yeah, 7 years bad luck, I'm not.
Yeah,
But I think if it's broken out of malice, no. I don't think I'll want it in my home, but if it's just broken out of either for an art project or in a caring way where it's like, I'm gonna make something more beautiful with this piece, then maybe it's a little, again, it's like intention. What you put behind it is probably what you get out of it with the mirrors.
Agreed.
So,
I agree with
so
that.
Mario's asked a couple questions, and we're starting to run up on our hour. But what do we do to get rid of this negative energy? I mean, I know I have my opinions and stuff, but I want to talk to the experts here and get their opinions.
I don't know if we're
And
so much
so,
experts, but I mean, for me personally, um, moonlight on. I know it sounds weird, but it's the fact is that it's not so much maybe the moonlight, but it's airing it out. You're giving the object, whatever it is, an opportunity to leave what it's holding on to and go out into the world. Especially if you kind of give that intention to it. It's like, it's, you can be cleansed, you can leave, you can do whatever. It's the same with, like we were talking about with the fighting. If you can find a different place to fight rather than it being in your bedroom, maybe go outside, stand in the grass. I don't know. But it's like when we talk about the paranormal too, like sometimes some people continue to talk about the paranormal in their home, especially the incidents that are happening to them, which again creates a sense of that paranormal repeating itself over and over again, because we're not giving it any freedom to go somewhere else. So if you go outside the home and you say, okay, this is what happened today, blah, 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 you're actually allowing the earth to absorb it. And the earth can absorb a hell of a lot more so than your home, right? So for me personally, I like to put things outside, or you don't need to put them on the front lawn with a free sign or anything like that. It's just basically putting it on the, outside on the front step, or especially for crystals. Like every time I buy crystals, because I don't know who's been touching those crystals, I always put them outside for at least 24 hours just to sort of give them some air. And then I bring them in. And especially because I'm giving those crystals to other people in the form of my products, like in forms of the resin and stuff like that. So when I handle those crystals, I do it with gloves. I do it with good intention. I play like binaural beats and positive vibrations so that those are going into the crystals rather than whatever energy I might be holding at that particular time.
interesting. Okay,
I
cool.
think that
Lynda,
makes
what do you
sense.
think?
I really think that makes sense. I mean, first of all, anything that's negative is always attracted to a more dark, dank kind of energetic area. So when I think about clearing whatever negativity is left with something, I always think about bringing more light and more air, more circulation to that particular thing, whatever it happens to be.
Mhm.
So yes, airing it out, bringing it light, dispelling that darkness, dispelling those negative vibes. I think that's so important. But again, if you're in a situation where it's negative all the time, open up the curtains, open the window, air it out, give it some light, and you will dispel all of the negativity. I think that's important. And one little thing I wanted to mention, because I did study feng shui at one point in my life. I remember one of the courses had to do with mirrors and how you should never have, how IKEA, they sell these mirrors and it's like 8 or 9 different little tiny mirrors to kind of form a large mirror. But when you look at it, you're distorted somehow. And in feng shui, they don't like distortion. So when you're talking about a mirror that's kind of broken up, that is not a good thing in feng shui. It has to be definitely a full vision of who you are, and not a broken up vision, because that's more Sha than Chi. But I wanted to mention, like, when you're talking also about, and here's where, it's like, well, one half a dozen of one and half a dozen of another. When you're talking about, wabi sabi, which is, that Japanese way of looking at the world, and gluing broken things back together again, there is beauty in that. I mean, there is that I don't know, that worn quality, that something has been enjoyed for so long, and when it breaks, it doesn't mean you throw it away. It means that you just keep it and you glue it back together again, and it has a different kind of way about it. It's got a different energy to it, and it's useful all over again. So, you've got like that whole, well, we deal with that all the time in this business, don't we?
Mhm. For sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Jennifer? What do you do any cleansing things?
Yeah, we actually recently, about a week ago, I just cleansed my whole house. We just moved, so obviously we don't know who was originally in the building. We want to make sure we have it a nice space. I have a little, so I want to make sure she's in a good, happy area as well, because she's growing and learning. And we do the same thing. We open up everything else. We scrub the floor with salt and rosemary and some herbs. Recently I've done with Palo Santo as well. I'll maybe smoke the area, make it smell good and peaceful and calm. What I do though is, as I'm going through each room, once I'm done and I've shut up all the windows, I shut the door and I put a little Palo Santo barrier. So as I'm moving through, if there is something negative, it doesn't go back into the area that I've already done. Because it'd be like chasing a mouse. You're going around in circles for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's no reason to.
Smart.
So yeah, I mainly do that, especially if I do it for someone who needs it. I do the same thing. I have them there though the entire time, and I'm like, you tell whatever negative thing this is to get out. There's a meme I always see where it's this woman, she's banging pots and pans. She's like, I ain't got no sleep because of y'all. Y'all ain't got no sleep because of me. But it's just like that, where you're like, get out of my house. I don't want you in here. You're not welcome. Just doing something loud and boisterous and exciting in a way too. Sometimes also dispels the negative, because the negative likes the dark and mopey and wanting to hide in the corner and not do anything. So I kind of do that.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I'm of like mind. I agree wholeheartedly that darkness can't exist in the light, right? And whereas just in magnetism or anything like that, positive repels negative. And so even from, like I said, I'm very much, I am a spiritual person, but I really have to I try to come things from also a logical standpoint, where trying to explain it to people who maybe aren't as spiritual. But it is that thing. It's it's very much a mind over matter. So if you are having negative energy in your home, if you're experiencing that negative energy, you're down, you're depressed, you don't feel like you can get anything done, and it's just miserable, you've got to change how things are in your home. You got to change your surroundings. So Lynda said, open your blinds, get some light going inside the house. Start with that, because you can't see what's really going on until you shine some light on the problems. You got a dusty countertop, dust it on. If it's too much to begin with, I always tell people, when you get up in the morning, set a goal to just make your bed. Start with something super simple. Make your bed. If you made your bed, you accomplished your goal for the day. And you're going to start to feel better about that. You keep doing it and you build off that. Clean your room, get some vacuuming done. You got a stack of dirty dishes in your sink, get them cleaned up. Those are the things that you can do to really start dispelling a lot of that negative energy. And it'll start, and it just kind of compounds, because you get those things done and you start building that positive energy in yourself. And eventually you're going to want to have all of that done. You're going to want to have that clean house. You're going to want to have all that stuff. You're going to start getting rid of things that that you are going to associate with that time that you were depressed, and you're going to replace it with better things. And so I think there's some really simple ways that you can definitely take care of those negative thoughts, those intrusive thoughts, and and yeah, have find that happiness that you're looking for. So
Sometimes even turning on the light. Like turning
turning
on
on
an
the light.
overhead light, it can help. I used to scoff at that growing up. I'm like, okay, yeah, a light, oh sure. But as I got older, I'm like, simply turning on a light, I'm like, oh, I feel a little better. Like I feel a little bit more
Mhm.
brighter now. So
And I think a lot of it too is the intention. Again, we go back into intention. Have the intention that you're going to start feeling better, that you want to feel better. I deal with people on a regular basis, like, that just get into this place of depression or sadness or whatever it is. And it's amazing how many people almost want to stay in that energy. And then of course, as the reader or whatever, you're just like, oh, I can't, like, it's too heavy, it's too much, like you're passing that shit onto me and I don't want it. And I've turned people down because I can feel their energy from a mile away. And it's not that you don't want to help them, but it's just that that they're going to try and stay in that energy and pass it on.
True.
And so there's two different things. It's like you're there to help people, and we all are, as as investigators or as a reader or whatever it is. Like that's what we're there for. We're there to help people. But there's at some point, you have to take care of yourself. And this even goes, to what you were saying before, Trevor, about people giving gifts or giving stuff. Sometimes, what, if you're not getting a good vibe off of something, it doesn't mean you have to accept it. There's self-awareness that we have to take responsibility for. And you can always say, look, I appreciate it. I have 10 of those in my closet. I don't need any more, whatever it is, or take it and put it outside, or take it and give it away, or re-gift it, or cleanse it and do something else with it. Maybe it's just something that you don't, maybe it's just that you're feeling it, right? Maybe somebody else is feeling it. But it really is the intention. And you have to have that intention that I'm going to feel better.
Now that opens up a whole new question, and I know we're running out of time.
It doesn't mean that you're going to be like Mary Sunshine and like, walking on, sun rays or anything like that. But having that intention that at least I'm going to try these things to make me feel better is the big thing.
I'm dying to know all of us, and I know we're at our hour and stuff, but I got this just popped in my head. So because we're talking about, like, you receive a gift from somebody who's a negative person, this thing might have some negative energy, and you pass that on to somebody else. So I picked up a hagstone off the beach, and I thought, oh, this is cool. I'm going to give it to my friend, and here you go. Did I just do something bad to my friend, or what's going to happen now? Jennifer, what's going to happen?
listen, according to what happened to my friend, I don't know what's gonna happen to your friend, but
It's like
I don't
spreading the disease. I don't know.
maybe
But
I don't
that
know.
person that receives it might be in a different place, right? Because they're not just picking it up and throwing it in their pocket. The person that's receiving it is going to be grateful, more than likely, for the fact that somebody gave them something. So there's a different energy already given to this particular item. And because they're not knowing where it's coming from, or they don't know it's a hagstone or whatever it is, it would be, okay, hey, I'm really, really grateful for receiving this, right? So I think that, again, attention has a lot to do with it, or how they're receiving it.
Cool.
Just my thoughts.
Awesome.
Just my thoughts.
Good.
So.
Good thought.
I just worry, like, maybe I got something from a yard sale or something that had negative energy, and I gave it away as a gift, and I just like, oh man, I just bankrupted that poor guy. Yeah, I don't know. So,
I don't think you have to worry too much about that, because it's always in their hands too to give it away or do whatever they want with it, right? Like, we don't need to know what happened to it. That's not what gift giving is, right? We don't need to know where it went. But yeah, I wouldn't please.
Well, unless they re-gift it back to you, but that's another story.
I was gonna say,
Right.
unless they give it back, then you might want to question some few things.
Well, thank you everybody for watching today. We truly appreciate it. We'll be here again next week. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. It was such a pleasure to
Yes.
have you.
Thank you so much
And
for having me. It was a lot of fun.
yeah.
Don't forget
What's
to
the
like
name
and
of your
subscribe to the
YouTube
channel.
channel? Yeah. How do you spell it? Put it that way.
Well, oh, mine. It's
Yeah.
Killer Cafe. So KILLER and then cafe like CAFE. So
Awesome. All
I
right.
haven't posted there for a while, but I am going to have season 2 of the Blind Frog Ranch recap coming up soon. So I'm very excited for that. It's been a lot of fun to dive through that because it has criminal justice also thrown into this season. So it's been a lot of fun to dig through and learn
Awesome.
some fun things about Utah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. It was such a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
And everybody take care. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.